and welcome to the program. I want to talk to you a little bit about this chalkboard. This is something that when I was over at Fox, I laid out, except I didn't put this part down because I don't think I understood it yet. This isn't going to come as a brainstorm to very many people, but it is to me because I think it's the answer. Right now, after the election, we have everybody, we have all these Republicans saying we've got to abandon our principles, we've got to become more liberal, we got to. And what they want to do is they want to move closer to the Democrats. And so cut this even into a smaller pie. This whole chart is the real left or right. Right now, we're told that the Republicans are right and the Democrats are left. But really the scale is totalitarian and anarchy. Those are the edges. And after we fought the Revolutionary War, we had the Articles of Confederation. And it was as close to anarchy as they could possibly put it without being anarchy. But it was too close, and so it fell apart. So they came back and they did it again. And they put the Constitution just out of arm's reach of anarchy. And they told us that it was important to stay here. Well, through something called the Overton window, we just slid this window down over and over and over, farther and farther down here. And we believe, and this is why that George Washington said the two-party system will kill you, because it presents you with a false choice. Down this far is the Nazis, the communists, and the theocrats. People in our media and in our schools and everything else will try to convince you that the Nazis are right and the communists are left. No, they're not. Neither are the mullahs. They're all here. They're all on this end of the spectrum. And we are moving closer to that end of the spectrum. This is a false choice. Here's where the growth comes. If you really want revolutionary thinking, if you really want to save our country, that's why I've been saying lately, forget about the parties. It's not going to happen in Washington because they refuse to think out of this little box because that's where all their power is. But if you really want to know how to gather a storm, how to gather enough people, you come and you look between this one and this goalpost. This goalpost here, the Constitution, and the Republicans. And you get as close to this one as possible. Almost everybody lives in this box. There are some people that live over here as well, but almost everybody lives somewhere in this part. This is Occupy Wall Street. They're past the Articles of Confederation, and some of them believe, I don't even know how, they're anarchists, say it for me, Penn. Anarchists that are communists and socialists as well. That's not, I don't understand how that's even possible. No government and total government. But they live somewhere down in here. But some of them actually believe some of the things that we believe in the Constitution. The Tea Party is rooted around the Constitution, but they also spread down closer to the Republicans and the evil Newt Gingrich. This is the problem. This is a problem. But this is the answer. Now, how do you get there? Well, you have to start having a different conversation. And a conversation that I've been having today and I've had now over the last few years with a friend of mine, Penn Gillette. He's a comedian, he's a magician, he's a libertarian, and he is also the author, strangely, of a book this devout Christian will hold up. Every day is an Atheist Holiday. Penn and I met, he doesn't remember this, I'm sure, but in 1990 I was a DJ, and I thought he was just the greatest magician ever.
That's accurate.
And then we met at CNN, and we had a great conversation, but we disagreed a lot on religion. And time went on, and we kept in touch, and we still disagreed on religion, and we still disagree on religion. But we have grown to respect one another. Did you say that's true?
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
And because I think the one thing we have in common is the Constitution.
Well, yeah, there's nothing more important. As I was listening, we talked about this before. We talked about up in your office. But as you were doing it here, I would argue a little bit with you about the placement of the Occupy Wall Street people.
Where would you put them?
I might put them on the other side. I might put them close to totalitarian, because their argument is not no government whatsoever. Their argument is using government to redistribute money.
I'll go there if you make them just useful idiots, because they're claiming that they're all about freedom and anarchy and no government, but they're really not.
There's no claim for that at all. There's no sort of, they want to have huge amounts of regulation.
Yes.
They want a huge amount of stomping down on Wall Street and moving that money back. And that whole 1% thing, I mean 90%, they are all in the 1% of the world.
Right.
And that's the part that's, they in order to make that argument, in order to be as rich as the Occupy Wall Street people are, you have to completely ignore the whole world. I mean, 300 million people in the United States is a very small number when you're talking about knocking on 7 billion worldwide. Those people are all, every single one of them, in the 1%, and every single one of them pays a cell phone bill every month that is the yearly income for a family in much of the rest of the world.
They will try to be perceived as anarchists. They hang out with anarchists.
I know.
So I think they're useful idiots, and which puts them again on the solid
it's
side.
just, I think your whole line here is, to me, how much freedom do you want?
Yes.
And the idea, the way I sum up the Constitution, is we do the minimum amount of government we can have that assures individual liberties. It's
Correct.
all about it. And I was saying this back to you. People talk about it being a Judeo-Christian country, being built on Christian values, which, as an atheist, I believe in completely. But the most important Christian value it's built on is Martin Luther's idea of forming Protestantism, that the individual communes with his God.
Yes.
The individual makes that decision. It's not top-down, it's individual. And individualism is the idea that is most important in the U.S. And I would just say that whole slide is, how far can we go? What's the minimum we can go in government that gives every individual as much freedom as possible?
That's what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
And would you agree that we're about there?
Yeah.
Maybe a little farther?
Maybe a little farther, because there's this idea that you can vote yourself money,
Yes.
and that rights are something other than what you can do alone on an island.
So here's the thing. There has to be a groundbreaking shift in people's thinking, and it's in a very small way. It's why I just partnered with Vince Vaughn, because I want people to look at that and go, wait, one of these things just doesn't belong. Vince Vaughn and Glenn Beck, how does that work?
Yeah.
And short circuit what they think they know.
Well, the thing that bothers me the most about all of this is tribalism. I think tribalism, pride in a group of people, is the most negative thing we have. It stops people from going across different lines. And it bothers me on sports teams. I'm not a sports guy. It bothers me on all of this that you can be, that, we've gone through this a million times. I won't do it again. But, Tommy Smothers attacking me because I went on your show, because he sees me as part of his tribe and you're a different tribe and I'm not supposed to do that. Whereas the idea of the marketplace of ideas is that everybody talks to everybody. And the fact that we disagree so much on religion is the reason we should be talking.
Yes.
And the reason we should be sticking up for each other.
Yes.
I mean, there's a science fiction writer that said if you could convince the gun people that the dope people were okay, and the dope people that the gun people were okay, everyone in the country was libertarian.
Here's the problem that we have right now is we keep going back to the same formula and the same argument over and over and over again. And anybody who believes in the Constitution is losing that argument. And like you take the gun people and the dope people, let me take the pro-gay marriage people and the religious people. I believe there happens to be a connecting dot there that nobody's looking at, and that is the Constitution. The question is not whether gay people should be married or not. The question is, why is the government involved in our marriage?
That's the huge insult to churches. It's the huge insult to gays. It's a huge insult to love. Is the fact that and it was pushed upon us. I mean, we didn't want that. You know, the idea that the government should be involved in love, when you state it that way, is completely insane. And when you know, my friends, many of my gay friends would say, "Are you for gay marriage?" I would go, "No, but I'm also against straight marriage." You know, my wife and I wanted to raise children, and we went to lawyers and said, you know, we don't want the state involved in our marriage. And I could not find one lawyer. And, you know, we had funds to talk to different lawyers. I couldn't find one lawyer who could guarantee me that I could have, if something horrible happened to my wife, that I was guaranteed custody of my children. You know, if she were to have a horrible accident or something, her family could come in and they could contest it. And so we are married. You know, we got married, you know, at a drive-through in Vegas. Cost us $300 because he spent $20 for the flowers. And $300 wedding. And in order to make sure that our children would be properly protected with us. And the government has built this whole thing. And once again, you know, I think every problem we have, we should say, can this be accomplished with more freedom instead of less? And gay marriage is the perfect example of that.
Well, we
can solve the whole thing with just more freedom.
But well, here's the problem with that. The reason why people on the right won't listen to that is because we've been duped a million times by progressives, because they're not into more freedom. There are many things that we have done in the past. We're like, you know what? I don't care. I'm not trying. Okay, they're handicapable, because I don't really care. I don't want to hurt anybody. Fine, whatever. Live your life the way you want to live your life. It's none of my business if it neither breaks my leg nor picks my pocket, as Thomas Jefferson said. What business is it of mine? However, when you get into the gay marriage thing, as most conservatives will tell you, that's not the agenda. The agenda is to shut down my freedom of speech and my belief in what you don't believe in, but I do deeply, the Bible. So I'm going to live my life the way I believe. That's freedom of conscience. And I have that right to do that. And if you don't believe it, have I ever talked to you about the healing, saving power of Jesus Christ?
Just now.
Okay. I'm not going to try to baptize you. You are who you are.
Yeah.
So whatever. I know it.
But by the way, it's also fine for you to do that.
Right.
You also know you could talk to me about that, and I wouldn't split.
Right.
I'll hear you out.
I happen to believe you live your life in such a way that if people will look at it and they'll start to go, what is it that's special about you? Then I'll talk to you, but you and I don't have that kind of relationship, and that's totally fine. But you're not going to hammer me for it, and I'm not going to try to build some theocracy to get you baptized. We almost had it with Mitt Romney. The point is what we need are people who, on the traditional, I don't even know, libertarians. We just need libertarians and people on the right to understand that you're a libertarian constitutionalist first. You're not a Republican. You are a constitutionalist. And if you stand with the Constitution, and then you find other people who may disagree with you, and they stand with the Constitution, are you gonna allow somebody to shut down my church?
No, of course not. Of course not.
And I'm not gonna stand there and let somebody shut him down. So if we can find people to turn the argument and say, what business is it of the government, which takes away their power and increases our power?
I also don't mind. I really don't mind. And let's not take a nut of your level. Let's take a nut of Fred Phelps's level. I don't mind him at all. I don't mind him protesting funerals of military people. I don't mind anything he says.
Hang on just a second. Hang on. I mind because that that does break my leg on as a family. You want to go and protest where my family isn't grieving. I as a family have a right to say, hey, out of the church territory.
Well, yes, but it all has to do with property. Of course, the big case that went to the Supreme Court, the family could not see the Fred Phelps people at all, could not see them or hear them.
Then I'm with you on.
They saw them on TV later.
That's not a problem.
But we have to get over the idea that you have a right to not be offended. I also believe the anti-abortion people are able to yell right here in my face. Able to yell, if I were to bring someone in for an abortion, they can scream right here and hold up any picture they want. If they touch me, they go to jail. But as long as they want to just do that. So I think that I don't care at all about you giving me respect and not preaching to me. I'm okay with you if you preach to me every single second we're together, providing you don't have the government behind you.
Correct. I'm okay with you trying to fill my nonsense with your atheist. So I have no problem with that either. I understand that. Because you know and I know we're not trying to subvert the other.
You shouldn't cheat.
Right.
That's all it is.
Right.
The marketplace of ideas, you should be able to say whatever you want, make any points you want, but you don't get to run to dad and put a law in
right.
that sneaks around and makes a rent.
Correct. So what we need to do, I think, as people who believe in the Constitution, is to start looking for allies that believe in the Constitution and expand our own horizons and we're not going to win. We would have the ultimate big tent. Because the only ones that wouldn't be allowed in the tent are those who don't believe in the Constitution.
Let me. There's a wonderful thing that happened with the word Christian. The evolution of the word Christian is fascinating. In the 19th century, your three highest paid speakers were atheists. There was Robert Ingersoll, Mark Twain, and Thomas Huxley, speaking of atheism. And they were brought into the White House, and they were embraced by candidates because bringing an atheist in showed the voters that you weren't going to be Southern Baptist or Lutheran or Catholic. You weren't going to do any of those things. And atheists were kind of this, they were the carbon rods in the reactor that said, if we're okay with this guy, you're going to be fine with Bob's Southern Baptist cult.
See, they've gone to Mormons now. That's kind of mean.
Well,
now people are just like, I'm okay with a Mormon. What am I going to do?
I'm going to get there. And then you get with the atheists get attached to socialism. And if I'm given a choice between a socialist and a Christian, I think it was Thomas Jefferson that said, I won't hesitate to go with the latter. I'll go with a Christian in a second over a socialist. So atheists get tied in there. And then you get to the 70s, and Roe v. Wade comes in, and some very, very intelligent people said, we can't fight this with Catholics and Protestants and Baptists and Lutherans all disagreeing. We need an umbrella. And they kind of came up with the word Christian. The first president we have that calls himself a Christian is Jimmy Carter. Before that, John F. Kennedy's a Catholic. Others are Baptist. Others are Lutheran. But they don't use the word Christian.
I would contend I can go back. I'm going to go back and...
They don't use that word.
I will go back and look for some of the founding...
But no, the founding fathers will use the word deist, and they will also use Adams, of course, used Protestant and used Methodist.
Right.
They'll use those. I'm not saying they weren't Christian.
Somebody get David Barton on the phone.
But they don't use that word. And then, in order to fight that, you get this big umbrella of Christians, which is what gives you 70% of the country being Christian, is not breaking it up by Catholics and Protestants and so on. And then we get to Mitt Romney, and we are now adding in the Mormons are now referring to themselves as Christians and getting in there. And most atheists flip out at the direction this is going. And I say, no, this is great, because we're next. We're next. They're going to go to American. That's the next word they're going to use. And then we're okay. We're in there. We're all right. But my point is, yes, let's just keep including, because we have more in common.
But as long as there is the principle of the Constitution,
absolutely
and there's because there's a lot of atheists and there's a lot of Christians. You can go to Jim Wallace. Jim Wallace would not be in this coalition because he doesn't believe in the Constitution. He doesn't understand the freedom of the individual, the freedom of rights, as you said, given by God or understood by God.
Or self-evident.
Yeah. That came down, were given to us. Life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and if you don't understand that that's my right, that's not a collective right, that's my right. That comes from our founding documents. If you understand that, you're in the club. If you don't understand that, you're going to be a problem. You're going to be a progressive or a communist or a Nazi or something else eventually down the end of that road. Once you get off those principles, you're in trouble. Back in just a second.